to the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. We are continuing our summer series where we're going to rank every season of Survivor. But more importantly, Andy and I are not going to do that by ourselves. We're bringing in a guest every episode. This week, we're bringing in returning favorite from the last season, XL Pelican, who we call Will. Will, welcome back to the show.
Name.
It is. Thanks, guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, your parents had an unfortunate idea to name you that.
Pelican?
Extra large pelican?
Yeah, exactly.
What were they thinking? That doesn't even mean anything.
Exactly. So, we're bringing in Will. Coincidentally, Will's number one choice to discuss was already taken in the last episode. But we are going to let Will talk about the number two choice on his list. And it was Cagayan. The last season, Brains versus Brawn versus Beauty. And Will, why did you love that season so much?
Cagayan is a great season because it's solid all the way through and because the narrative lasts the entire season. So there's no real slowdown, and the seeds that are planted in the first two episodes blossom into horrible, horrible trees in later episodes. So we have, basically two arcs. We have the Tony arc, and we have the kind of Brains arc. And like literally from the first 10 minutes of the show until, really the reunion or, final tribal, those kind of, stories are continually playing out.
That is a very good point. Those are basically the two narrative threads of the whole season.
Yeah, and I think what surprised us, I know what surprised us in one instance, we figured that Tony's arc was like an early season story and like it would be wrapping up around halfway, but it just kept on going and building strength. And, a lot of the feeling throughout was, this can't keep going, can it?
Exactly. Throughout the whole season, there was this constant unpredictability where you just have no idea where things are going to go next. I mean, first, the rice into the fire incident, and they don't boot Chatia, and you're like, what is happening? Why are the rules of Survivor breaking down? And then you have these reversals constantly. There must have been at least 6 or 7 reversals. From the Garrett boot to the Jatia boot to the the Sarah boot, and then Tony's kind of ping-ponging back and forth between alliances up till the very end in Wu picking Tony over Cass. There's just constant surprises down every corridor.
I'm actually glad you brought up the Wu one because in our last podcast earlier this week, I suggested that Tyson had the dumbest move of all time, but like Wu had the dumbest move of all time, right? That's the true answer?
He did.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Wu's was a guaranteed $900,000 swing.
Yeah, he went from completely winning to losing with one decision. Obviously, Colby did that too, but Colby had to have an idea that he had a shot against Tina too. Like, he probably thought just better chance of winning. But yeah, it was like guaranteed victory and then guaranteed loss.
Yeah, and he also had other motivations. Like
yes, exactly.
Career.
Career motivations, looking like a good guy, getting lots of tail, that sort of thing. But
absolutely.
I guess Wu probably had that third one too. But.
Well, and in Colby's defense, Colby's vote was a lot closer.
Yeah.
Wu got blown out.
Yeah.
So a little bit of trivia about this season, because that's what we did last time. I'll continue that thread. This was the first time since Tocantins that we had only 2 finalists, and we actually almost had an exact repeat of JT's final performance. Tony missed it by 1 vote. Tasha's bizarre, I don't know where it came from vote for Wu. And this was also the first time ever that 3 people sent home right at the beginning of the season were men, which, pour out some liquor, Jeff Probst. I'm sure he was devastated by that.
Yeah, I'm sure he was crushed.
Yeah.
Another good thing about this, which actually Jeff said at the finale, is that pretty much everyone came to play. Maybe not Morgan, but pretty much everyone else. You can just as easily imagine a scenario where, the Marlins guy, David, Garrett, and I don't know, Bryce, end up making the merge. Not winning, but you can imagine a scenario where they might get that far under different circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, Bryce was kind of the brains of the beauty, as it were. And it was a little, I thought it was going to be really unfortunate when we lost him early, but it turns out that, yeah, they had a deep bench this season.
Yeah. I think one of the lessons that the producers should take from Cagayan is the strength of the 3-tribe format. We'll get into this later with Philippines as well, but I think the two-tribe game has basically been solved. People know that a 5-person alliance with some, extra delusion for 6 and 7, will get you to the end and will help you win. And you've got a pretty good shot doing that. But with 3 tribes, it's all in who picks the right buff at both the tribe switch and then kind of how things play out at the merge. And it's much better television. And if I see another 2-tribe season kind of without another gimmick, I'd be very surprised.
You actually kind of stole my thunder here, because that was going to be my point later on, is that I think the 3 tribes thing worked both for this and for Philippines because it hasn't quite been solved yet. No one has the pattern that will work every time. So it's throwing people off their game. They don't have a set game plan to go by.
And I think probably just math says that it can't work. Like, it can't be solved. Right. You cannot form, unless, I guess, your 6 just carry on through. But even then, like, that's what was happening with Braun, and then the switch up prevented that 6. Like, you can't get the numbers, and, like, you're immediately, like, one vote, there's basically one wasted vote. You can you can cut one person, it doesn't matter. But if you have to go again, suddenly, decisions need to be made, alliances need to be formed, and things might need to be switched up. Obviously next season we're only going to have 2 tribes, but that's where your caveat of other gimmicks comes into play.
Right.
Unless there's like a subdivision, like maybe it's all triplets or something.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Mom, dad, and kid. That would be hilarious, actually.
Oh no, it should be a parent and 2 children, and they have to pick which one they love better.
All right. Well, we'll write
Jeff would love that. Jeff would really love that.
We should get Tyler Perry to tweet that one out.
Oh, I still have my Tyler Perry account. I can do that.
Well, speaking of Tyler Perry, how do we rank a season so highly that had such a game-destroying gimmick in it? The Tyler Perry Idol.
I think the answer is that it doesn't matter. Well, I guess you can make an argument that, it gave Tony a pretty good advantage. It's still, I think, pretty likely that the outcome would have been the same if that hadn't come into play, and he would have just found another way to do what he ultimately did, anyways. So I certainly wasn't happy with it, but it didn't, in my mind, affect the gameplay in a ginormous way.
No, I think it ultimately played out like a normal idol would, and it's probably because he found it later in the game, and it already ended up in the hands with somebody with a lot of power anyway, so it couldn't have switched the game in the way that if a terminal underdog like Spencer would have found it. If Spencer finds it, the game flips entirely because he would have controlled the vote, and it might have been at the right time. And also people would have been scared of him, and that gives you even more power. But yeah, in a kind of fluky way, it didn't really matter that much. You have a list of questions, don't you, John?
I do. First of all, what was the biggest highlight of the season? Will, go ahead and go first.
There's so many candidates. When I think about what we're going to be talking about, 5 seasons away from now, I think it's going to be that first post-merge tribal council where Cass flipped. I think that's going to be the enduring lesson, Spencer's lesson of, keep your people in line. But also the lesson of don't be the Christie, as we'll later find out, and kind of equivocate about what you're going to do.
Andy?
Probably the llama noises. No,
I did write that one down.
I bet you did. No, I think Will nailed it. That's probably when we're talking about big moves, we'll mention it in the same sentence as Parvati double idol or hold up bro or that sort of thing. If I had to pick another one, I think it would be Tony engineering the exit of LJ. Both because it was, an exciting play to move, get rid of a potential power player, but it was also such a risky move. Like, while it was happening, you're like, this is going to backfire. In fact, that's probably what happened. We thought it with a lot of Tony thought things that this was going to backfire. But it did not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a good chance that this could, kind of set up a new type of player, or inspire a new type of player that is much more willing to do the Tony style ping pong thing, which we'll find out later in this podcast is not his original thought.
No.
Right. Yeah, he's not the first one to come up with that plan. He was the first one to successfully execute it to a victory. But I will concur with both of you. The Chaos Cast flip, that's what I wrote down as my highlight of the season. Because without that, the season really is just probably going to end up pretty boring. I'm imagining everybody would have just fallen in line and run through that alliance. Maybe not down to the final 6, but somewhere in that range, and it would have been a much more boring season for it.
Yeah, I think it's more likely that things might have fallen more into place. Now, the one thing is there's two, chaos agents at play. The TM Chaos Cast, who you never know. She didn't flip then, maybe she would have flipped again. Or just Tony. Maybe he would have found some other crazy stuff to do and get himself out of that situation.
Well, I think the interesting thing about that post-merge vote is that, Tony and LJ played idols, that they got this big strategic move. But the thing that actually flipped the vote is the most basic survivor strategy there is, which is just exploiting divides in relationships. Like Jeffra, we found out from Tony, was the one that realizes that Cass is maybe not getting along with her alliance and gets her to flip.
Yeah.
Although on TV we saw it as Trish doing it, which, according to Tony, was not necessarily true.
Like, it wasn't completely untrue. I think she had an element to play, too. It's just they completely did not sell Jeffra's role in it. So we made fun of her on the podcast. Sorry, Jeffra.
Exactly.
Okay, so question 2. Who was the defining player of this season, whether that person won or not? Andy, go ahead, because it's going to be unanimous here.
Yeah, there's one answer. It's Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
Although I will say that I think Cass is a villain for the record books. Cass really had a huge part in making the season great, and not just her flip, being kind of the shrew that she was, really added some spice to the season, especially in the episodes towards the end where things got a bit slower with fewer people. Her ability to pick fights and blow things up really made fun for the viewer, if not fun for Tony or Spencer.
Yeah,
and if
I think that's absolutely right. These are the two characters that shaped what happened.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a 1A and 1B thing. I think it's a clear Tony number 1, Cass 2.
I agree completely.
I will say though that we got some flack on Twitter from Kristen Marie, who said that it was very hypocritical of us to suggest that Todd's flawed win made him maybe not the best Survivor winner ever, and yet we're huge champions of Tony's game. To which I say, Andy, what do you got here?
I don't know, touche.
Yeah, because I got nothing. That's a
honestly,
very good point.
I've been thinking, because the last thing we will let happen is her be right about something. But I think the difference is Tony was a little more active in actually doing things, and some of his moves were like his move and his move alone. I mean, obviously Wu also did the move, but only because Wu did whatever Tony said. Whereas with Todd, he took a lot of credit for group moves. Now, maybe he was more influential in the group moves. I kind of felt like it was a pairing, Amanda and Todd, and sometimes more Amanda than Todd, and then probably some other times more Todd than Amanda. I think one thing we probably undersold in that conversation is that I still think fairly highly of Todd, just maybe not as highly as many other people.
And that's really the issue, is that there's a lot of people who rate Todd as one of the best winners ever, and I don't think that's justified.
So we have somebody else on the line. Settle the debate, Will. Are we big hypocrites here, or?
No, I think you're right. I do think highly of both Tony and Todd, but I would agree that neither of them are maybe top tier players.
Mm-hmm.
They all made certain stakes and had certain elements of luck. But I agree with you when you say that Todd generally gets a lot of credit for group moves, whereas Tony was pretty independent out there.
Yeah. I'm very glad you agreed with us, so we don't have to hang up on you. All right, let's get to the next question.
Have fun with the rest of the podcast. I hope you remember Amazon pretty well.
Oh, believe me, Andy will just keep talking. I wouldn't even have to get in a word.
This was all just designed so he didn't have to listen to me about all this stuff, but it's still coming. At one point, we're mounting all 28 and get ready for your 5-hour podcast.
All right, so question 3. How well did this season's twist or gimmick work? I have to clarify. There's essentially 3 twists / gimmicks here. One that we didn't discuss yet, which is that at the very beginning they did the whole tribe leader thing, which is something they've done before. They also had, of course, the Tyler Perry idol, and then, of course, the overarching gimmick of the season, brains, brawn, beauty. Will, go ahead and go first.
I think the brains, brawn, beauty thing worked well. I mean, each tribe had kind of an identity that led to the ultimate outcome. The brains were kind of egotistical and super dysfunctional because they couldn't get over kind of the thinking aspect of it. The beauties did nothing. And I guess that's the only thing bad you can say about the twist is that tribe was generally kind of a snooze.
Just there, basically.
Yeah, scenery. And the bronze, had a lot going on. So I think it worked well.
I do agree with Tony, though, that it was kind of BS that, when you have a brawn tribe, there weren't more explicitly like brawny activities in some of the challenges. I mean, there was puzzles in basically every challenge, which is meant to favor the brains tribe. I don't know how you could have favored the beauty tribe in any way on those, but it was really just more athletic rather than brawny for the challenges.
Yeah, and I think that's just what Survivor's become. I think they probably figured out that puzzles are a great end of, challenge equalizer or just general equalizer. And maybe they play better on TV than hold up this stick or something. But a lot of seasons have been puzzles, which just helped, somebody like Boston Rob dominate a little while ago.
Robert.
When you look at how they pick the tribes, though, like, they didn't necessarily, like, if you looked at the people and sorted them into the tribes, you wouldn't, pick them like they did.
Mm-hmm.
They picked balanced tribes. So it was really more of it was a gimmick. Like, it wasn't actually a scientific experiment about whether brains, beauty, or brawn would help someone win Survivor.
Yeah, like, they jury-rigged it to fit. They didn't cast to it. Which would be interesting if they were to do a brains versus brawn versus beauty too, which I guess following this pattern would be like 1 season from now.
Take long.
Yeah, then they might cast more to the stereotype, and then it might not work. I think that's why it was a potentially dangerous thing, because it could have just been lug nut brawny types and dimwit beauties. Obviously there were some of those anyway, but there's some of those every season. And then I guess in some cases they edited it to be that. But no, they'd cast 18 really interesting people and then found where to put them. And in some cases, maybe really stretched the definition. So in terms of how it worked, it gave us something to kind of hang our hats on and like latch onto in those early episodes, which is always the hardest in newbie seasons. So I think it worked well. And then to Will's point, it forced a 3-tribe structure, which I think we also agree works pretty well.
My points exactly. I was basically going to say the same sort of thing, that when you're starting off this season, the 3-tribe thing might make it a little harder to get to know individual personalities, but just the fact that they're divided by stereotypes makes it a little easier to at least know which tribe you're watching.
This is why they need to do Cook Islands too. Anyway.
Oh boy. We're not going to edit that out
just
either.
Wait till we get to Cagayans. I ride or die with that season.
All right, so we're in general agreement that the twist worked pretty well. The gimmick, I should say, worked pretty well.
And then, as per earlier, the Tyler Perry.
Yeah, we won't go back to the Tyler Perry thing.
Yeah.
All right, so final question for Cagayan. What was the biggest flaw of the season? Go ahead and drown us out, Andy.
Oh, man, I'm not prepared for this.
You're unprepared to talk? I have a hard time believing this.
Yeah, it was pretty good season. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
It's general flaws or Survivor-type flaws, you know? They underdeveloped a few characters. They maybe featured some other ones, but that's the show. They've got a show to produce. I think it's a show that, I guess for this season and a lot of seasons, they need to find a better way to highlight the work of social players. You know, they give us enough so that viewers like us can like point out, it's like, hey, Lindsay's really doing something. Oh, not Lindsay.
Trish.
Oops. Trish is really doing something here.
But I don't think it was something good.
Yeah. But they still don't know how to edit that, or they're not interested in editing it, especially for, say, women.
Well,
that's my answer.
Your opinion here.
I basically got nothing. You know, the beauties were duds. The Tyler Perry idol, I think, was probably unfair and unsurvivory. But other than that, you know, I'm not going to complain too much.
I'll say that beyond Tony, a lot of the cast to me was a little dull. They were good players, but they weren't necessarily entertaining TV. We definitely got a ton of exposure to Tony, but I think that was kind of justified just because, again, they weren't always necessarily the most gripping confessionals or entertaining confessionals. Not a ton of great narrators. That's really the only, I mean, I like the season a lot, so that's about the best flaw I can come up with.
But yeah, I guess there wasn't another big personality that lasted through. Now I think, if I recall correctly, that's a bonus for you, Will. You're not a huge fan of that, but yeah, imagine if Bryce had lasted a little longer. He might have been able to be a little more vibrant. I think, like, Spencer worked because he was a contrast to, you know, crazy Tony flipping out, you know, with his crazy energy doing things, and then Spencer was a little more cerebral. So I think that worked there, but maybe if he was a little funnier or something, you know. And yeah, obviously Wu, he's not our type, is basically it. But, you know, I think he delivered what they wanted him to deliver.
Well, speaking of entertainment,
and I guess we should also say, yeah, the stupid Tyler Perry idol. Okay, it didn't really matter, so it didn't hurt. But you know what? You got lucky, Survivor. Don't do that again.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for stepping all over my transition there, Andy.
No problem.
Speaking of entertaining players is what I was going to say. Let's talk about Malcolm's season, because, Will, you had this number 6 on your list. We tried to give everybody stuff from their top 10 unless we wanted to give them one to trash. So number 6 on your list, tell us why Philippines was great.
A lot of the reasons that I gave for Cagayan actually apply to Philippines. Again, it has kind of the overarching seasonal arc of the kind of Denise-Malcolm duo really just dominating the game. A little weaker, but it also has kind of the constant stream of drama and reversals, especially post-merge. There's a couple kind of dull episodes in the middle when you're spending all your time with Dawson and Katie.
Yep.
But after that, after the merge, this Tandang tribe, which until the merge hadn't gone to tribal council at all, kind of just spectacularly self-destructs. And all of the kind of cracks that grew while they didn't go to tribal council just completely fracture them and into a totally chaotic situation. I think 3 of the post-merge votes have votes for 3 players. There's a number of idols in play, including one that is kind of fought over between RC and Abby. Abby is another thing that makes the season great, because she's terrible.
She is. And it's funny you say that because, again, as Andy pointed out, you're generally not a big fan of the character types, and I would maybe lump her in with that.
That's true. But the pleasure in seeing her was seeing Denise deal with her.
Yeah.
Because I would urge anyone to go watch the Tribal Council on YouTube, where the two are duking it out. Because it's basically the profile of every just impossible coworker you've ever dealt with, or customer, or whatever. That just, for me, just hit home. This is like, I have to deal with impossible people, so does Denise, and she wins it. She attends every tribal council, and she pulls it out. So it has a very rewarding narrative arc, kind of the put upon disaster of a tribe ultimately ends up making good.
Well, what's funny is that we're talking about this right after Cagayan, because this is the underdog story that we were getting with Spencer, but this one actually sees it through all the way to the end, and Denise, the underdog, does actually win the season.
Yeah, and it's actually, I was going to say that we must have done this on purpose, but we didn't. But yeah, Philippines and Cagayan are kind of like mirror seasons. There's a lot of comparison between the two beyond just the three tribes. Like, Malcolm's arc is mirrored quite a bit in Spencer's arc, to the point where they went home at around the same time. And they got the same edit. Like, Malcolm himself was saying that in interviews, like, I've been there. I know what this guy's at. They were in the loser tribe to begin with. They had to fight through. Every time they thought they were pulling themselves up, they start falling down. Now, eventually Malcolm did get the upper hand for a little bit, a position that Spencer never enjoyed. But other than that, there's some comparisons for sure.
Well, another fun comparison, Matt Singh was actually a worse tribe than the Brains tribe was.
It was.
They lost 4 straight. The Brains tribe only managed to lose 3 in a row. So Matt Singh's got the record. They're all-timers in terrible. Yeah. But, of course, ends up working out okay for the 2 remaining Matt Singh members.
Yeah,
though.
I'm not shedding any tears for those 2.
No.
Yeah, and then, there was a period of time in Cagayan where it looked like it might have ended up working out for their final 2. I mean, they went farther than you would expect. Tribes started to eat themselves instead of getting them. They were winning key immunities. So, and the same deal. The Braun tribe went in undefeated and then started turning on each other. It was a little different because of the swap, which Philippines lacked. But yeah, there's some comparisons here. And I think you're right in thinking that this one just wasn't quite as good.
Yeah.
But why? Why do you think that?
I think part of it, it is the returning players.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good personalities.
Were they?
Well, Penner was.
Penner was.
And Russell Swan is a good disaster personality, like agent of chaos, just disaster of a human being. But Skupin has no right to be a returning player on Survivor. I guess he earned it the hard way.
Well, do you realize that Skupin has inexplicably never been voted off of this show? Both times he played, amazing. He did not get voted out.
Yep. He's never seen his name come up in the majority. We'll get to the gimmick. I guess this is the gimmick. I'm jumping ahead, but I kind of like that they did the 3 returning just because Survivor fans have always booted this around as an idea of let's give people second chance and all of that. And I'm glad we didn't waste an entire tribe of second chancers. This was a way of bringing it in. I mean, cause you kind of feel for Skupin. He was doing all right in Australia and then he goes. Russell Swan never really felt like a real contender, but dude almost died, so there's that. And then, I mean, I'm watching Micronesia for the second time right now, and just as much as the first time, I felt like Penner got hosed. So I'm glad they did that, but I'm glad they brought these guys in to a strong cast. If you would have brought these 3 in with, Redemption Island cast or something, I guess you could say it'd be just as bad as it was, but I'd say it would have been worse.
I will say, if you're going to bring back players, I'm really glad that they brought back basically incompetent ones.
Yeah. I love Penner, but you're right about him.
He's a flawed
never
player.
Gonna win. Yeah, he has so many flaws. Micronesia, I actually thought he was kind of set up, but I think he'll always hurt himself. Not literally.
The advantage of being a returning player is so huge in that you know all the kind of production details, you know the way the show works, you have some insight into survival. That advantage is so huge that if you bring back powerful players, they're going to ruin your season. So I think bringing back weak, foolish players is, if you're going to do it for kind of the viewers, is a good way to go.
Well, let's be clear. When you bring back these players, just make sure they're male.
Absolutely.
That goes without saying, right? I mean,
or Stephanie.
We tried it with Stephanie. She was no longer the sweetheart, and that's just can't be accepted.
Yes, God forbid.
No, that's an excellent point. Yeah, don't bring back the best if you're going to mingle them with newbies. Save the best for other bests, because otherwise, they just dominate. Now, you think maybe they were thinking that with South Pacific, but somehow Coach and Ozzy still managed to be the best? Wow, they might really drop the ball in casting that season.
Oof. Yeah. I really wonder, did they have better people in mind for South Pacific and they got turned down?
And it's like, oh no, who else we got?
Who's a yes? Oh, Coach. Okay, fine.
We had it totally set up as Colleen versus Elizabeth. And then...
All right, so let's get to some questions. One, what was the biggest highlight of the season for you, Will?
Obviously, the Matt Sting narrative is pretty powerful, but my personal favorite is how Pete kind of pitted RC against Abby by stealing a clue early on, which it wasn't great strategy, but it was just so fun watching RC get just incredibly bothered by this basically idiot that it was very entertaining for me. So.
You just enjoy watching Abby Maria harass people? Is that what it is?
Well, no, I empathize with the people that she is torturing. And I don't know. It's fun. Then it's fun to watch her get her due.
Andy, your highlight.
I mean, it's kind of a simple play now. It may have been done before that, but I think when Malcolm brought out his idol at Tribal Council and just put it around his neck, and basically from that moment on, he never really had to play it. But I thought that was a great move, just in general with Malcolm. I mean, we haven't really talked, I guess that's another question that's coming up, but I really dug Malcolm this season. I think he's the total survivor package, and I think that was his best move.
Mine, it was hard to pick a single.
Yeah.
I like this season, but it was hard to pick just one moment. I wrote down Jeff Kent's bizarre "Thanks Obama" exit interview. But I think actually the moment that I would pick is Malcolm losing that final challenge despite having the advantage. Because it just seems like, okay, well, Malcolm got the advantage, so I guess he's getting to the end. And then there's Malcolm, he loses the advantage. Well, he's still got a shot, though. He'll probably pull it out. And then, boom, Malcolm loses, he's gone. And you know it immediately as soon as he's lost that challenge that he's gone. So, to me, that was nice. It really added some drama and tension to the final moments of the season.
Yeah, just I didn't choose a real strategic moment, but that doesn't mean there aren't them. I think we have there's two vote splits in the post-merge, which make for kind of interesting gameplay. And there's a lot of other flips, like Lisa flips, Scoopin' flips at various points that keep things relatively hot. So even though there's no, great climax, it is a very consistently entertaining season.
Yeah, and also, is this the last season that somebody successfully, dodged a vote against themselves by playing an idol? Has it happened since Penner did it? I don't think so.
I don't recall another incident since then, no.
Yeah, and that's a point we made last season. Maybe idols are not that actually big a thing, or at least in terms of...
I think in Karamoan with the double idol play.
Right, but I mean, the vote didn't actually end up going that way. They did their job in terms of keeping them safe. You're absolutely right there. But Eric changed his vote, so I think technically, it was Philip. But maybe Eric, but of course he would not have done that without the idols. So the idols did keep them safe, but they didn't eliminate votes and thus the second lowest scorer. So, which is one thing where I said maybe that's why they changed the idol rules, other than a deep abiding love for Tyler Perry, is it's we actually want to see an idol do its job. Yeah, and that was an exciting moment for Penner, and then he went and pennered it up. We'll talk about strategy later. I don't have a Penner impression. Let me think of Hawkeye.
Alan Alda, get it in there somewhere. Okay, who was the defining player of the season, whether that person won or not? This should be very easy. Go ahead.
You go first, John. You go first. You never go first. You always get to respond.
Come on, Ed, this is going to be
so
unanimous.
So take this incredibly easy question.
Yeah, I'll take this one on the T-ball stand from just knocking it out of the park. Malcolm. So easy. I mean, I was debating there for a second between Malcolm and Carter for that way he described the food the one time. There was this sauce. But no, other than that, I mean, Denise is the only other one you'd maybe consider. But yeah, Malcolm.
I really like Denise, and she's probably one of my favorite players ever to play the game. But there's no saying anyone else but Malcolm is the defining face of the season because he was an excellent narrator, and he's funny and charming, and it just made
dreamy.
He made
like
the season
he was
better.
Yeah. No, Malcolm was easily the star. Malcolm is one of the best finds they've had in the past 10 years, right up there with Tony, Cochran, Kim. However, if you want to talk about who was the biggest, whose actions controlled the game the most, I actually think it's Lisa Welchel. Because she was the one who was often in or around majorities who would change her mind. Scoop would go with her, and then suddenly the game twisted a bit. And I think it was kind of undersold that she was a really interesting character in a way that, the motherly type never really gets to be. And by the way that she was treated in the final tribal council, you got why she shouldn't have been that way. But that she was emotionally conflicted. She was, connecting with these people. But in the end, she still tried to actually play Survivor. She still tried to vote out people that she was previously aligned to. And of course, they never forgave her for it. But
right. She took the good, she took the bad, she took them both, and there she had.
There you go.
Facts of life.
I should just leave it at that.
Okay. Moving on.
Yes, moving on.
But yeah, I'm ready to see Malcolm play again another 3 times.
That's what I was just going to come back to, is that Malcolm's going to come back to this show until, he either totally destroys his appeal as a player or until, he and Probst just have some big, huge public Colby-like breakup or something, because that guy is just a charm factory.
Or until his AOL web series just takes off. Did anybody watch that? Because I said
no.
Just do not watch that. It was painfully boring.
I'll say it now, though. I don't think Malcolm can ever win this game.
I think you're probably right.
Well, I think he could have.
Too vital.
This was the season, though.
Yeah,
he had his window.
Yeah, and now everybody knows it. And the next one nobody knows. So things, if he was on a better tribe or something, maybe he would have had a shot. Although it was kind of tough because he was on the outside of the people that had already gotten along. But now people know he's coming, and it's we can't let that guy get anywhere near the finals.
It's sort of like bringing Russell back, only Malcolm is a decent human being.
Yeah, Malcolm would hang around for quite a bit because it's people are like, hey, I enjoy hanging with Malcolm. So I guess he would just have to find a lot of idols, which he's proven, an ability for. Yeah.
All right, so how well did this season's gimmick work? I guess we'll call 3 tribes and then also 1 returning player the gimmicks for this one. Andy, give us an answer.
Fine. It wasn't that big a deal.
Very detailed answer. Will, what do you think?
Yeah, we talked about this. It had some positives and benefits in terms of the returning players, but ultimately it didn't really influence the game, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, it was the crutch, right? The Survivor in recent years has shown a real fear of all new people seasons, and that's probably coming off of Nicaragua in one world. It was fairly justified. So it's we gotta give the viewers something. We gotta give our fans something. And it turned out when you saw this season where most of the new players were more interesting than the returning players, it's that you don't need it if you can do your job in casting well. And I like Penner. Bring him back,
Penner's a great narrator. I just love his narration. They should just have him back for that. The other 2, who cares? I would never see them again. But Penner I love.
Yeah, well, Penner's the first draft pick if Probst ever decides he doesn't want to do this anymore, right?
That's a whole other podcast, Andy. All right. Final question. What was the biggest flaw with this season, Will?
For me, and this is just a personal thing, I did not enjoy Lisa Whelchel. Her kind of internal struggle I found incredibly irritating. Her, like, when you're on season 25 of something, the debate over whether to be honorable or to, play the game, it's a pretty tired and worn out one. So Lisa Whelchel, go to hell.
Yeah, I personally don't like it when people have emotions. So that bothered me.
See, I'm a very touchy-feely guy. No, see, I guess for me, the difference is I agree normally that it's like, I don't care for, playing Survivor the right way or the moral way or whatever. But what I found interesting is she would overcome that.
True.
Yeah. But then, she'd make the move and she would do it. And then she'd feel bad about it, but she would still do it again. And I found that interesting. I could do with a lot. I'll second that. Stop with the crying though. I don't need that. Don't get crying in my strategy game. But, from a psychological standpoint or from just a character archetype standpoint, I found it a little interesting that she was trying to buck up against it, but couldn't. It was a play on our own personal failings or something.
Sure.
Yeah, it was deep, wasn't it, what I just pulled out there?
And let's move on. The final season that we're going to discuss with Will tonight. He ranked it number 8 on his list, and it's Survivor the Amazon. You can probably guess the central focus that we're going to discuss from this season. But Will, tell us why you liked this one.
Well, I think when I was making my list, what I thought of, like, if I could erase my memory of this season and watch it again at the time that it aired, what seasons would I want to watch? And when it came out, Amazon was cutting edge, and it still holds up pretty well today. And the reason that's true is because of Rob Cesternino.
There you go.
He is pretty much the first time we'd ever seen someone who was one, funny on Survivor. Never had happened before, really. 2, a good narrator, and 3, playing the game really hard with a good eye for strategy. And the way that he kind of manipulates people, especially post-merge, really kind of set this standard for future seasons, and is incredibly entertaining to watch, even today.
Yeah, this was really the first season where there was just alliance jumping, basically. I mean, generally to that point, people were riding alliances until the bitter end, and then, of course, they have to fall apart at some point. But Rob was really the first one that said, you know what? This alliance is not working for me. I'm going to change to a new alliance. And it was the first time it happened. I haven't seen it since it originally aired, so I imagine I'm going to have to take your word on the how well it holds up thing. But I agree, though, that I remember watching at the time and thinking, like, wow, Rob C is hilarious. He was suggesting that Matt was a serial killer. He's telling Probst to get the girls some peanut butter so they'll strip. And the girls are talking about how their beauty is a handicap, and Rob's just eating it up and sarcastically saying that he doesn't have that same handicap. And he was a very entertaining character.
First off, I'm gonna, challenge your assessment that he was the first funny Survivor. I think you're really underselling Pascal.
I thought you were going to say Rudy because you're really into racist and crotchety old man.
Oh, look at him, funny with his terrible, horrible beliefs. Oh, isn't that cute? And actually, what you were saying with bitter end, it's like Thailand where it's extra bitter end. Yeah, Amazon represented a step change in Survivor. The gameplay had started to form around, the basic tenets of get your alliance, hold your alliance, and then form sub-alliances and win. Rob C and Amazon changed that. And I think without that, maybe somebody else would have come along and done it anyway. But if that had never happened, and since this is the first time it happened, this show would not have lasted, and we would not be watching or talking about it. It became a more interesting Survivor because of Survivor the Amazon.
Yeah, it added to the rule book, hey, don't let everybody know the pecking order because that's terrible strategy.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
Marquesas first introduced that idea, right? But yeah, apparently Alex wasn't watching.
I guess not. I'm sorry, we'll let you guys keep talking about the season because I have some other highlights I wanted to get to.
But yeah, Rob C, like heading into All-Stars was my favorite Survivor going in. And I think that's
Mine too.
probably not uncommon for people who enjoy strategy and talk about Survivor on the internet.
I will throw in some trivia about this season because, again, I did some research here. The first ever deaf player was on this season. Christy, who, of course, many of you may remember.
First and last, I believe.
She lasted a surprisingly long time. I mean, especially, like, if you consider how easy it is to, like, talk behind her back. You can just literally talk behind her back and she's
It's
not
that
gonna know.
easy. Yet they wouldn't talk behind her back. Instead, Heidi and Jenna would say all the awful things right in front of her because they're terrible people.
Yeah, and I think we've actually discussed this with someone else before, but it is odd that, I mean, for most of the season, you get the impression that Heidi and Jenna are just terrible people, and you get to the end and Jenna wins, and you're like, wait, Jenna's awful. Why did she win? It was definitely an odd twist at the very end. I remember at the time, like, being convinced that my buddy Rob C, who was hilarious, was going to win the season, and it gets to the finale, and I was like, wait, what? Her? Didn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk, let's just talk about now. What was the biggest flaw with this season?
Yeah.
This is the biggest flaw with this season.
Yes.
Jenna winning was
and
the greatest flaw. Continue.
Yeah.
And not necessarily because of her as a player, but more because of the narrative they told just didn't really fit with Jenna winning.
Right. And, you know, maybe Survivor needed that at some point. But it is very unsatisfying. It is deeply unsatisfying that this person who has been painted as a spoiled, self-centered, just arrogant twit ends up, you know, holding up a headdress slightly longer than Rob, and and you know, wins $1 million. And this season, probably more than any other, you know, tests the thing that we run up to time and time again with the, you know, who deserved to win this season. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, saying that Jenna played the best game out there, I don't really believe it.
Patently untrue. She made almost every mistake you can. She just won the right immunities and then went up against all-time GOAT.
Hey, speaking of who deserved to win, you're reminding me of one of my favorite moments of the season when Heidi's final question to the two people left are, her question is basically, so is there anyone else that you think deserves to be up there? And both of them say, yeah, Rob C deserves to be here. And Heidi's like, yeah, but I mean, anyone else? And then finally Probst is like, yeah, just have a seat, Heidi. We're good.
Yeah.
Just the height of unintentional comedy, especially in early Survivor.
But she had such a high IQ. But yeah, it's actually interesting in debate because undoubtedly the biggest flaw is that they showed such an unlikable person and that person wins. And it's like, which should the show do? Try to reflect reality a bit more and the winner is the winner? Or should they make sure their winners are a little more satisfying? And I think following this and following a few other victors, they decided to take path B. And winners now will get a certain kind of edit to the point where if somebody else is getting a different kind of edit, you probably know they're not the winner. Unless maybe they're a woman. Because the show will undersell Natalie still to this day. But yeah, I remember loving it, and then by the end of the finale, what? That's what happened? I had convinced, I guess Matthew was gonna win, you know, at least he was okay. But it can't be Jenna. What I know about the development of story, even though I wasn't 100% thinking of, you know, this as an edited story at that time.
Right.
Jenna does not win by the end, and I guess in modern TV, a Jenna would always win. because
Yes.
the bad guy wins a lot. So, yeah, it was a problem, and I just wonder, was the show hamstrung? Like, what can you do? She won. Should they have made her look more appealing, or could they have even?
I don't know if they could have, but we're trashing her. Meanwhile, she's like petty and she's vain on the show, but she's also 21 and
21,
hot.
yeah,
so
well,
she's going to be that way.
And she didn't play a terrible game. I mean, of the people post-merge, she was probably one of the maybe 3 most strategic people, the others being probably Rob and Dina.
Yeah.
So it's not a terrible injustice unless you take her personality into account.
Yeah, and that's just it. You're absolutely right there. Because I'm looking at it as like, well, it's not like I wanted Butch to win or Heidi. Christy was clearly pretty flawed. But
Okay, so
yeah, it just like I was so prepared for Christie's evil stepsisters to get their comeuppance, and instead they got $1 million and Christie's vote apparently.
So we've covered the biggest flaw now, so we'll just skip back and do the highlight.
Well, before you do that, I just want to say another flaw is that the beginning, the pre-merge, is pretty much paint by numbers early Survivor, so it's not particularly entertaining except for Rob's confessionals. So that's another flaw with the season. But
yeah, and then I guess the boy-girl stuff. It was good that it was balanced. It was like, the guys, lose, and it's like, you guys are, shame to all men everywhere. And then the guys win, and it's like, all right, you ladies are crazy. I'm being Jeff Probst right now. So at least it was balanced. It was like 1 in, 1 out. But it was pretty straightforward. Alliances were forming. The outcasts of those alliances were sent home. People who thought idolatry is, against their religion were sent home. But yes, it absolutely took off. Not really post-merge, but post-swap, wasn't it?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. When suddenly now new alliances are starting to form, that's when Rob kind of goes from, the funny, nerd that's basically the last person in the alliance to like a key member. And then the merge happens and the greatest moment happens, which is Alex telling Rob, I think I'm going to go with the other girls and you should be really happy that you're 4th. And Rob going, what? And forming other plans.
Yes. Okay, so is that, by the way, your highlight of the season?
Yes.
Okay. And Will, what about you?
My highlight is the Christie vote. It is probably one of the best episodes of Survivor ever. In that it sets it up so well. She's being so arrogant and lording her decision, this is the final 6. Like, she's choosing between drawing a rock and voting with the guys who like her and have treated her well. And she lords this decision over everyone. And then finally, an hour before tribal council, Rob just goes to either Jenna or Heidi and says, I've had it. Why don't we just vote Christie out? And it's TV magic. Also watching the tribal council where she has no clue and she continues lording it over everyone. While it's basically set in stone that she's going home, is incredibly entertaining.
Yeah, and I'll go with the fact that we got the first ever frequently changing alliance this season, which, like I said, it's still a fairly foreign concept at this point in the show's run. So, but the close second for me was the Christie vote, just because I love the idea that, all right, if you can't make a decision, we'll make one for you. You're going home.
Yeah, and it became the template from then on. And actually, that's a good point, because I think the Alex vote out, which is what I was referring to, was really satisfying. But maybe that's a little more along the lines of like the Road 2-4. Finding out that, you're not in your alliance's plans and voting out that person. But I think probably where Amazon came alive is that Rob switched back at the Christie vote. So, yeah. It wasn't just that he flipped on the alliance he was in, but that he didn't stick with the next alliance. And that one didn't work for him because Christie was problem, so then he voted with the girls. But then the very next time, he votes out Heidi. And then, Butch. So, it was the flipping back and forth. And, I love when they vote out the person who, thinks they have so much power because you're in the middle. When you're in the middle, you have, 5 minutes worth of power, and you better make a decision.
You have 1 vote worth of power.
And not even that. If you screw that one out, then I'm like, let's get rid of that person.
Right. So let's all give our unanimous answer to who the defining player of the season was.
One,
Rob
two,
C.
three, Rob.
Not even close.
So defining that it's like he can't come back, you know? Like,
Yeah.
All Stars is like, this guy's too dangerous, and now, I mean, I think enough time has passed. I don't know if people would see him as the immediate threat, but how do you top it?
What's funny is, if they brought him back now, I mean, they tend to bring, you know, if they did a fans versus favorites, how many of the quote unquote fans that they bring in would actually know who he was? So he might stand a chance, because if they bring back like a Reynolds and Eddie type for fans versus favorites, they don't know Rob from anybody. So he would stand a chance, and I'm fairly certain he was going to be on Blood versus Water before his wife got pregnant. So I think it's definitely been pitched, at least, and it should still happen at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably my top 5 of most wanting to see again. You just wonder, if he'd just be too big a threat. But maybe what they do is they jury rig a season for him like they did Cochran, and it would just be all his buddies. No, I am not saying they actually did that for Cochran. It's just a funny internet theory.
Funny that you should say the jury rigged season and then just conveniently forget Boston Rob. But that's okay. We'll discuss that season later. All right. Last question. How well did the season's twist or gimmick work? Really, the only thing you can go for is the all-male, all-female tribe here. It only lasted 4 votes, which is funny because that's kind of the precedent being set for the later gimmicks. They don't tend to last very long. Will, what'd you think of this?
It worked well. This is basically the battle of the sexes that doesn't suck. You know, one of the things that I think really made the season is that most of the time you thought that people were having fun. Mm-hmm. There are a couple of challenges where they're just joking and laughing with each other, like across tribes, you know, across alliances. And so you kind of get a sense, okay, these people, you know, they're playing hard, or some of them are playing hard, but they're enjoying themselves. And that kind of translates to the viewer. And I think part of that is due to the twist, or the men versus women. Unlike One World, they didn't start it out with like scramble everything you can from this, you know, broken down truck or whatever. And you know, you can see that people were really anxious to get to meet the opposite sex, and really disappointed when they weren't initially on a tribe with the opposite sex. So I think it worked very well.
Yeah, you wonder if that's like
perfect
early Survivor. I know this is perfect transition. I'm stepping over it, but like early Survivor still probably had a bit of that feel of, you know, hey, this is an adventure, and we're gonna all be kind of famous in LA, and we're young people, more reality TV. Now none of that exists, right? Because basically, if you're on Survivor, you're really only known to hardcore Survivor fans at this point. There's not really any crossover appeal. And that's maybe in later men's versus women's seasons, you don't have that energy that this one had of, you know, Shauna and Alex wanting to hook up from across the bow or anything like that.
But you just totally stepped all over Will's
But unlike
shining
One
opportunity.
World, which is another season where they did this men versus women gimmick. Will, do you have any opinions about One World?
You set him up,
to
Will knocks it down.
Right. So, as you guys know, my last ranked season was One World. And I absolutely loathe this season. But the reason that I loathe it, just since we're done talking about Amazon, apparently, one of the reasons the season is terrible, is that we don't get to see a lot of Kim. Mm-hmm. Surprisingly, like for most of the season, we have no idea what's going on inside Kim's head. And that's the only head that matters. Because the producers want to keep the suspense running about who's going to be voted out next, they don't really share much of Kim's thoughts with us. And when they do, it's often kind of a red herring. So they basically robbed us of one of the kind of great performances by just trying to keep, you know, the suspense running episode to episode. So I feel cheated every time I think about One World.
Like, there should be a director's cut where it's just all of, like, Kim's
confessionals.
Yeah, confessionals, well, you know explaining what, you know, where her thought process is at.
Well, you know what the director's cut was? Redemption Island. Just Photoshop in Kim's face over Boston Rob. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah, they robbed us, but they should have robbed... no, that's just so weird.
Oof.
There's plenty of other problems with the season, but I just wanted to get that off my chest.
Well, I'm glad you could. And since you dared to discuss the season that Kim won as being horrible, now is a great time to hang up on you. Anyway, Will, thank you again for coming on the show and for discussing your, well, I can't call them your top three because they weren't your top three, but they're three of your top 10 at least.
My second, my sixth, and my eighth.
There you go. Those are three of your top 10. And Andy, tell people how they can get in touch with us, like Kristen Marie did.
Yeah, you can tweet at us your hatred. Bring it to us. It fuels us. I want to hear you say that, no, these seasons that we discussed tonight were no good because you're wrong. We're at Purple Rock Pod on Twitter.
And if you send us a tweet that just says, I hate you, I will favorite it. It's a guarantee. Every time.
You can send us emails at purplerockpodcast@gmail.com. If you have opinions about these seasons that are radically different than the ones we've discussed, why not leave us a voicemail and we might even give you some airtime. Skype at jrpurplerock. What else we got?
Did we already mention the Gmail?
We did. We also have a blog. That's where you can listen to these things, and you can also leave comments on those things or subscribe on iTunes.
Yeah, and leave us comments on iTunes too. You can give us your 5-star review and just have it say, I hate you. I would love it. I would favorite that too if I could, but I can't.
All right, so join us again next week where we'll talk about a few more seasons. Some might be good, some might be bad. All leading up to me finally deciding what's the best seasons of all time. Because I'm listening to our podcast guests like Will tonight, and I'm letting them convince me. So thank you, Will. Thank you for giving me the freedom to say that Cagayan is awesome. Because I think I'm still a little nervous about it because it was so fresh, but I think you're right. It is one of the greats.
You're welcome.
And thanks for joining us.